I told Neil that he only had to hold his breath for 10 seconds. So 10 seconds passed, cut. And I said, pull. And I don't see anything in the monitor. I'm in the back. I'm like, pull. Can you not hear me? I'm yelling, pull. Nothing's happening. And I look over and I see that they're pulling as hard as they can, but we didn't realize that the dirt piled up that high created so much weight on the planks that they couldn't pull it out. He was stuck. He was stuck in this dirt.
Hello, and welcome to Shoot the Shit, a podcast that tells the unfiltered tales of filmmakers' craziest production and on-set experiences.
Because every shit situation makes for a great story after. I'm Kristen, a director and editor.
And I'm Taylor, also a director and editor. And today we're talking with William Dickerson. He is a writer and director. William, welcome to the show.
Hi, happy to be here.
Do you want to give us a quick overview of sort of what you do, your background?
Sure. Yes, I've been writing and directing film and television for about 15 years. I graduated from AFI, American Film Institute, in 2006 with a great group of people. And from there, I directed my first feature film, Detour, which was an independent film, like a micro-budget film, which launched my career. From there, I directed two more independents and one mini studio film that went to television. When I'm not writing and directing, I teach film and also play the drums in a rock band that is tied into my last movie, No Alternative, that was loosely based on my band from the early 90s in the grunge era. And because of that movie, the soundtrack that was featured on it won a few awards. It highlighted our music from back in the day, and we ended up getting a record contract in our 40s. This is something that we dreamed of as teenagers, and now we're 40-year-old men. Some of us have kids, and we're reunited playing. We just released our debut album last year, so when I'm not making movies or teaching about them, I'm playing rock and roll.
That is so awesome. I love that. That was it's like a childhood dream that came true.
It is. I'm the drummer, so I gotta stay in shape. You get older, your muscles tend to they tend to tear more easily. So it's not. I wish we got this deal 20 years ago, but I'm doing okay. Nothing too major is preventing me from playing at top ability.
At peak performance. What's the name of your band? We'll have to check it out. Saturday
Saints. Yeah, and we're on every platform. You could get us on Apple Music, Amazon, and Spotify. We even have a vinyl record out there if you want to get it on Amazon.
I keep seeing all of your clips on social media, and I'm always like, oh, he's doing good. He's doing good.
Not too bad. Busy, Very busy. I wish there were more hours in the day, right?
No, that's good. You're living the dream. You're living those dreams.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at now.
Awesome. Well, let's talk filmmaking. You want to share one of your craziest behind the scenes filmmaking stories?
Well, absolutely. And this is a great podcast to do that, because the first story it involves my first film, Detour, which is by far the dirtiest set I've ever been on. If you don't know the film, it's about an ad exec who gets buried alive in his car during a mudslide, right? So we had to literally import, I don't know, maybe tons. It could have been tons of dirt into a set and deal with.
So you meant dirt, literally.
Literally, okay. Literally dirt everywhere, right? So it was absolutely filthy set. That it was crazy, and we're dealing with a micro budget, so it was favor after favor, and trying to do a lot with a little, right? So I found myself at Home Depot getting bags of dirt when we needed more. It was literally that grassroots, right? So the first story involves in that movie, and in thinking about what stories to tell, the first one that came to mind had to do with, safety, right? Because safety is obviously an important part on set, right? Because people work very long hours and often asked to do the impossible, right? And in this movie, when I was pitching the film to actors, I approached an actor named Neil Hopkins, who's a wonderful actor who I'd worked with before. And in telling him about the project, I went through how some of it was going to be filmed, which I don't usually do with actors. I try to purposefully separate the actor from the process. I mean, not necessarily to hide anything from them, but I want them to be in the moment, right? The more that they think about the mechanics of what's going on behind the scenes, the more potential there is for them to become ungrounded, right? But in this case, I felt like, well, what one person in a car? I mean, that's like, I had a few actors who were like, well, I don't know if I can do that. I mean, this is all me. It's very intimidating. So I kind of boiled it all down to this one shot where finally, spoiler alert, the windows break and the dirt comes into the car, right? And he breaks the sunroof and all this dirt's coming down, and he has to just traverse this tunnel of dirt that forms. And I had this shot in mind where the camera is suspended above him and the dirt is rising up toward the lens, right? So I can't cheat this with a stunt actor. It has to be the main actor because it's a close-up, right? So I wanted to see the dirt just rise and rise and rise, and he takes his last breath, and the dirt goes over his head into the lens. And I was like, I'm claustrophobic. I think most people are to a degree. That just sends chills up my spine, and it sent chills up his spine too. He's like, wow, that's awesome. But then he thought for a minute and said, well, that's going to be me. How the hell are we going to do this? I was like, well, we're going to have to.
Terrifying. Like I would not want to be the actor in that.
Well, no. Yeah. But I was like, we can't get a stunt person. You got to do it. And if you're not comfortable with that, I don't think we could do this. But to his credit, he's like, you know what? As an audience member, I would love to see that. So I want to do this because that's an awesome thing to do. But he also knew he was the one to do it. So I didn't know how we were going to do it at that point. So we had to figure that out. He signed on the movie, and then we started to figure it out with my production designer and our special effects person. And luckily, we had a special effects person named Bob Williams, who was our mud guy. He'd do all the mud effects. And as a favor to our producer, Melanie Miller, who just won an Academy Award, by the way, for Navalny. But the first movie they produced, Diane Becker and Melanie Miller, who they produced Detour, but they just produced Navalny. They've been doing terrifically well with documentaries. And Melanie knows everybody. And she got Bob to come on the film for nothing, and he did. He built the tunnel in the Shawshank Redemption. He built the original Terminator robot. He was on all the Pirates movies. I mean, this guy is like a legend, and he was doing the mud in our film. So he was involved. So we had a lot of like top-notch people working on this. And what we ended up doing was building a contraption that was like this tube, like a 6-foot tube that was cut in half. And you can pull the tube apart, put it back together, and fill it with dirt, right? So we were able to fill it halfway with dirt and cut into the sides two slits that we put these planks into it. And each plank had a semicircle in it, right? So it would go around his waist. It was kind of like a medieval torture device. So you'd put a human being in it, have them sit in it on an apple box, and then insert the planks, right? And then the planks would be like around his waist, and then put the dirt in, right? And then fill the dirt all the way up to his chin or up like his neck. That's the idea. And then we'd position the shot on the camera on a crane overhead. And when I'd call action, I'd have a lot of people with like literally solo cups just pouring dirt around his head, so it would just rise to the camera, right? And it looked great. It's like, oh, we can do this. And then once it would go over his head, I would wait a few seconds, and then I forget what the signal was. Maybe it was pull. I would yell pull, and there were two crew members on each side of the planks, and on the sides of the planks were handles, and they would yank the plank out like this and let the dirt fall down. And that was the idea. Then all the dirt would fall, and you'd be able to breathe again. So that it seems fine. And we did have a fail-safe. If for some reason something failed, we weren't just going to let our actor suffocate to death, right? That wasn't an option. So our AD, Paul Yates, was going to just remove there were a couple of nails in the side, and he had some sort of device that would just pull them out very quickly, and then the whole thing would just collapse, and the dirt would come out. The problem was, though, I didn't want to do that because then it would break, and we couldn't do the shot again. We would be screwed. Like that, the whole thing would just be garbage at that point.
It's like a last case, like worst case scenario.
Yeah, worst case scenario. So
yeah.
all right, so the time comes to do it, right? We're on set, and this was very complicated because we had this crane up there, and to get the amount of dirt we needed, because we did a test, and it took forever for the dirt to rise up. So we needed every crew member on set. I mean, from PA to production designers to the producers. You got Melanie and Diane in there, like just all the dirt, just everybody who had a hand, literally like 16 hands, just on set, just pouring the dirt in. And we had the cameras filming from above. Neil's in there. We're all set. I go through the protocol with the crew. Neil had a safe word, and we got ready to go. And I call action. The crew members are on the planks. Everybody else has the dirt, and they start pouring the dirt. Looks great. Looks fantastic. And then I don't know who it was. Doesn't matter. Somebody knocked the camera in the middle of the take. So I knew the shot was ruined in the middle, like toward the end. It was like, oh God, I don't know if we can do it. But I kept rolling. I was like, I don't want to do this again. What are we going to do? Anyway, so we kept rolling, and the mud's going in there. And I think I might even cut earlier because I knew I had to do it again. Just when the dirt went over his head, I was like, okay, cut. I let it be for like, I don't know, 10. I told Neil that he only had to hold his breath for 10 seconds. So 10 seconds passed, cut, right? And I said, pull. And I don't see anything in the monitor. I'm in the back. I'm like, pull. Can you not hear me? I'm yelling, pull. Nothing's happening. And I'm like, what is going on? And I look over and I see that they're pulling as hard as they can, but we didn't realize that the dirt piled up that high created so much weight on the planks that they couldn't pull it out. He was stuck. He was stuck in this dirt.
My God.
Yeah. So basically, I was just like yelling, pull. Then finally, I think a couple of the crew members went over and helped pull it out. And finally, it came free. And the dirt came loose. And Neil, he comes out stumbling. He threw up in the corner. He threw up. Dirt's everywhere. And I was like, oh, my God, Neil, are you okay? He's like, you're going to go to the hospital. You're right. And we're like tending to him. And he's like, so he's okay. And I was like, oh, God, I felt so bad. But I knew we didn't get the shot, right? I'm looking at him. I don't want to. I want to say move on. And Neil comes up to me and he's like heaving, hunched over. It's like, did we get the shot? And I didn't answer him, but he knew. He's looking in my eyes. He goes, I'll do it again. I'll do it again.
What a trooper!
My God. Real trooper. We made sure this time we got it right. There were no accidents. We had like 3 or 4 people on the planks, and it worked out. But I was this close to going to the failsafe and totally destroying it. Yeah. But then like the key shot that for me made the movie, that's like the last shot in the trailer as you see it, we wouldn't have been able to get. So it was a testament to Neil, as you said, being a trooper, and the crew, everyone pitching in. But that was the scariest moment I've ever had on set. Because like, wow, like I could have, it's a lot of responsibility, Yeah,
I mean he could have suffocated if you guys didn't get him out in time.
Yeah. And I think for like a few years after that, you'd always, maybe half jokingly complain of getting dirt lung on the set or something. So I'll probably get a bill from him in like 20 years when he has some sort of like chronic lung problem. I have no idea.
Oh my God.
So yeah,
how long do you think it was that he was under there? Was it like 30 seconds? Like
it could have been. It could have been like 20 to 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And there's no way he could have been breathing under there. I mean, maybe he probably did. That's why he was coughing. He probably did a little bit, but he got some dirt in his lungs. It was bad. And we were an indie film set. It's not like a big studio set where you got paramedics on standby. We didn't have any of that. It's just like it was. It could have been worse. But like I said,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The soundstage was large. It was I don't know if it still exists in Inglewood. There was a large soundstage that we got for relatively cheap. The catch was it was pretty close to LAX, so we had planes flying overhead all the time, which was annoying. But the good thing was we weren't. Well, there was a lot of dialogue. He's talking to himself in the car. There wasn't dialogue with other people. But I ended up using it as a directing tool. So I would say every time you hear a plane go overhead, don't ignore it, acknowledge it, but treat it as if it's the car creaking underneath the dirt, right? So incorporate the sound into the world of the scene. And it worked out really well because then he would react in the moments that these things are happening. but treated it as though it's the car that's compressing. And then in post-production, we would remove the sounds of the airplanes and put in the crunches, and it worked out nicely.
Oh yeah, that's a great workaround. Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think creativity breeds limitations breed creativity, right? So these moments where you're put in corners, it makes your brain work harder, I think. So yeah, that was a. I don't know if I could ever say I could laugh with him about this story, but it worked out. There was a happy ending. Thank goodness.
Oh my gosh. It's like even scarier than that one shot. I think about like immediately when you like, you know, putting an actor under dirt. I think of the shot from The Lighthouse where, you know, Robert Pattinson is just like covering Willem Dafoe in the grave. And it's just like, but that sounds even worse than that. Cause at least like he's shallow. If anything happens, they can pull him right out. In that case, you literally had a man in like a barrel of soil.
Yeah, and we wanted it to be as practical as possible, and that was in 2010. I mean, the visual effects they were available then, of course, but it was a lot more expensive, and it's just not as easy as it is today. There's probably easier, less dangerous way to do it. But we got the shot though, and it's a good one.
No one knocked the camera the second time. I'm certain.
No. Yes. I made sure of that. But so that's that.
That is certainly a good one. It sounds like a wild set. Was there anything else that happened on that set?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things. I mean, it was my first movie as a feature as a director, so it was kind of like trial by fire, and everybody was doing multiple jobs, and it was like a real ordeal to get the movie made. It took like 3 years just to get the financing. And there were lots of twists and turns. That's a whole other podcast, right? Where we had millions of dollars, name actors attached, and that all went down the tubes, and more money, and then bigger actors, that all went down the tubes. And I was doing this dance with Hollywood for 3 years until I was like, I wrote this movie to make for nothing. So why am I doing this? And then once I made up my mind to make the film, then things started to happen, right? So that leads me into the factor of product placement, which every film has to deal with to a certain extent, I think, right? Even if it's just clearing stuff that you see in frame. Some productions get money from product placement companies, right? From the brands who want their material in the films, and we had a route at some point. To I think around $400,000 to help fund the movie if we were to use certain items and put them on the screen. And one of the big things was a power drill. And for $400,000, like a power drill in the film, you think, oh, that's a no-brainer. But as the director, I'm like, well, this man's buried alive in a car, and he has to do a lot of MacGyver-ish things to get out. So if he were to have a power drill, it would make his dramatic journey a lot easier, right? There's less struggle because he can use a drill to do a lot of the stuff that in the script he has to do with his hands. So, and it was like my producer was like, oh, but it's $400. We got to use this drill. I was like, well, I don't think dramatically it would really dampen the film. It would just make things less hard for him. And you want to create a character where the decisions that they make are difficult, and the actions that they take, they struggle to take them, right? So I went back and was like, well, if we use the drill, we can use the drill as long as the battery's dead. And they're like, well, we got to see the drill in action. And that kind of put an end to that route. But that got me thinking about products and then other product placement companies that wanted us to put brands in there. And it's funny, there's a lot of residual elements. Like there's a scene where Jackson, the character, pours motor oil on himself in order to help lubricate his body to navigate through the mud easier, right? So to get through crevices in the car. And I wouldn't have had that idea if one of these companies hadn't asked me to put their motor oil in it. They had this purple motor oil. I forget the name of the brand, but ultimately we didn't use it because it was purple, and it was really weird. I thought it would draw way too much attention to the product because he's in a car and he has this weird novel motor oil. So I thought the audience would think, oh, that's product placement. That's the key to using products. They can't scream product placement unless you're doing a satire of it, like in Wayne's World when Wayne's eating the Pizza Hut, right? Or in Austin Powers with the Chili's baby back ribs. So we didn't use that, but that ended up staying in the script. And he uses just non-brand name motor oil in the movie, but I wouldn't have been able to come up with that scene unless I had that interaction with the company. So these hurdles kind of spark ideas. But the funniest story involving product placement had to do with a company that we ended up using, which is great. They were great. They gave us lots of fun things, like those Flips pretzels, like the chocolate covered pretzels. They gave us like unlimited amounts of those because he eats those and all the crew ate them. Also, I don't know if you remember, it's like if you're in the 90s, but anyway, in the 90s, they had this thing called the Club anti-theft gadget. You put it on your wheel in your car.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you lock it so someone couldn't steal your car. It's very, very primitive. But, and they were like almost out of business at that point, but he uses the Club in the film in a very unique way to sort of keep open, to keep the sunroof from collapsing. And we got a bunch of those. We got a whole bunch of stuff. And, but the product placement companies were like, well, it's like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours sort of thing. Okay, we'll give you these, but can you try to use this? And they really wanted us to use Emergen-C. You know what Emergen-C is? It's those little packets of electrolytes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When you're like getting sick or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You put it in water or drink or something.
Yeah.
And I used them a lot. And I was thinking, that could work really well. And it wouldn't draw too much attention to it because I think he might have it in there. He's also an ad man, so maybe he worked for them. But then you have to, once you have these opportunities, you have to think in terms of the story. Well, if I were in that situation, how would I use this? Because if he just has Emergen-C and he takes it, it's like, well, is that the proper use for? Like, what's his situation? So his situation is he's running out of water in this car, right? And he can only, human beings, I think, can only get 3 or 4 days without water, right? So at some point, he needs to get more hydration. So first, his one water bottle, he runs out of that. Then he's able to sort of funnel water from the mud dripping in the car, right? It's dirt, but he sifts some of the dirt out. And then he's done with any sort of water. So he turns to his last resort, which is his own urine, right? Which he's been collecting in the glove compartment. So he's been using the glove compartment as a urinal, basically, pissing in there. And then eventually in the script, he takes the empty water bottle and dunks it in there and fills his bottle up with his own urine. And he uses that to drink from, for the rest of the movie. So if it were me and I found Emergen-C in the car, logically, I think I would use the Emergen-C to flavor my pee, right? Because it's so putrid. So it'd be doing two things. It would give me the antioxidants I need to help me survive, and also takes the edge off the piss I have to drink, right? So I thought it was a great idea, but we couldn't do that without the permission of the product placement company. So
this tastes good.
Yeah,
you're not sure that's the intended use that they had in mind.
Well, that's the thing. So Melanie Miller went back and forth with the production with the product placing company, and pitched them this. And she did, bless her heart, because she pitched them the idea, and they were like, "No way! Like, we can't. Like, this is impossible. Like, it's just completely inappropriate." And I was like, "But." My retort was, well, you could be really missing out on a niche market here that you haven't really thought about before, right? I don't know, drink their own pee and they don't quite like the taste of it. Here's your solution. They didn't go for that angle. Oh. Yeah. So that's that story. So we didn't end up using Emergen-C in the film, but I really wish we did, because I thought that would be cool.
I love that. That's the creative way to use it. Is creative thinking.
Right.
I'm not surprised they didn't go for it, but
no, it's not surprising in the least. But there are fair. Huh?
Oh no, I was just going to say, even if you didn't get the money for it, it's a great detail to just put in there. Yeah,
absolutely. But they wouldn't let us use it at all, right? Money or no money. But the products that we did use, I don't think call attention to themselves more than they need to, and it ended up working out well.
What did you end up using that fit in the script or fit the story in general?
Well, I mean, he just didn't flavor his pee, right? So he just drank it. He just went for it, right?
Yeah.
Just downed it. So yeah, we didn't, unlike the motor oil, which I thought, okay, that's interesting. We can keep that with a non-brand name. I figured like the emergency, if you just had like some sort of powder, because everyone kind of knows what motor oil is, and it could be in a car and you see it like the blue thing, and he actually talks about the oil. If it was just a packet of powder, it might be a little bit harder, and we had to make it up. Like if the production designer or art director had to create it themselves, it probably would have been more difficult for the audience to pick up on it. But in an emergency packet, people know that. Like, oh yeah, that's that. Oh, I use that. Oh, I see how he's using it, right? So I decided not to even go down that route.
Fair enough. For the motor oil, so this actor had to be buried alive, and then he also did get covered in oil.
Oh, we tortured him. Yeah, I think I owe him one of my future children or something. Yeah, we had one of his stipulations was he needed to have a shower on set, and you know why, right? Because he would just be a filthy mess by the end of the shoot, right? So it was something. Yeah, motor oil, dirt. There's a moment where like glass is just shattered in the car. The glass all comes at him, right? And this leads into another story. The first shot of the shoot, literally the first take, right, is the shot where he's in the car. The mud has already surrounded the windows. He doesn't know where he is. He has a concussion. And the camera sort of spins 360. He looks around, and the camera goes into his point of view, looks around, and comes back and meets him there, right? And we did a couple of camera rehearsals, went well, but on the first take, we did it. And for some reason, it didn't line up properly. And when he turned and the camera met him here, he slammed his head into the camera, actually the back of his head into the camera, and saw stars. And it was really bad. And he was in such pain. He started screaming. I thought it was a joke. I was like, oh, this has to be Neil playing a joke on me. The first shot, like, what's going on? And then I saw he was really hurt. And we had to take him to the hospital. The first shot, the main actor goes to the hospital. I was like, oh, this is not a good sign. This is a bad.
No way.
Oh. Yeah.
Was the camera hurt at all?
No. It wasn't even. It was like the edge of the lens, like that real hard metal part. It just got him just in the wrong place. It really stung. It really threw him for a loop. He was hurt, but ended up he didn't have a concussion. But it took up on the first day, and this is an indie film. We got a lot to shoot, so he was gone for half a day, which basically led to me doing most of the inserts in the film. So anytime you see a hand or a foot without seeing the actor, that's my hand or foot. Because I was like, what are we going to shoot? We don't have the actor. And it's all him. So I was like, okay, let's shoot all the inserts of him doing certain things. We went through the script very quickly and looked, okay, we have inserts here of hands and feet. We don't need him. My hands and feet are generally the same size, right? My face wouldn't work because he's a lot better looking than I am. But my hands and feet, I think, were decent matches. So we shot a lot. Like I'm not going to waste a second on set. So we were able to get a lot done, but we hadn't anticipated that, right? So that's like, you have to expect when you make a movie, and I'm sure you know this, I mean, you have to expect Murphy's Law. Everything that could go wrong will go wrong. Just expect that to be a certainty, and just figure out how to pivot, right? So the more you have planned ahead of time in pre-production, the better you'll be prepared for all these wrenches that get thrown into the works.
And sometimes having to throw the plane out the window.
Yeah, exactly.
The new one.
Yeah, but you can't do that unless you're prepared, right? You do all the work ahead of time. I guess there's such a thing as a director winging it on set, but that's so bad. It doesn't make any sense to me. It baffles me. You have to be as prepared as possible.
We've brought that up so many times on this podcast. I can't tell you. So many situations. It's just crazy. But I think
have you heard stories of? Yeah.
I think that's kind of what makes it so much fun is just, all of the problem solving and like maneuvering around. And it's just, it's the chaos management is very important. And I don't know, it's kind of interesting just to hear about all of those situations.
It is, absolutely. I mean, have you heard stories of directors who weren't prepared and disaster ensued?
I've been on sets where
well, yeah.
prepared.
There you go.
Like you were saying, like, oh, I don't understand directors who wing it. Literally, television show winged the whole thing. Like, first of all, brought on a director of photography. It was his first. It was his first feature.
Yeah.
And 2 cameras, and they did not have a shot list. They just shot scenes as they showed up on set, and it was, I mean, it's a TV movie. It's not meant to be, if it's a product, that's all it's required to be. But it's like, I don't understand why we're doing this. Like, it could just be a lot easier on everyone if you just had a shot list.
Well, of course, right? And I don't know. To me, it doesn't matter if it's a TV movie or a 3-minute short. You should be putting your best foot forward all the time, right? So that's unfortunate, but it's not. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon, right?
Yeah. Well, people have their ways of doing things. The creative process is different for everyone. So.
Oh, yes. The infamous creative process. Yes, indeed.
Enjoying this episode? You can find the extended version via the link below.
While you're there, please give us a like. It really helps us out. Yeah, I think there's kind of this expectation when people aren't familiar with what directing exactly is, but it really is such a collaborative experience. Sure, you make all of the decisions, but at the end of the day, you're taking in so many people's opinions and like their ability to problem solve in situations.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what makes movies so much better than when you like initially conceptualize them. Like you said, the movie dies so many different times, but it's brought back to life by all of these other people that are working in tandem with you. And hopefully they're good collaborators. And it sounds like you've had quite a few good collaborators.
I've been very lucky with my collaborators, but there's also been a few collaborators who I'd never work with again, right? I mean, in the movie business, it's hard. You can't really test that, right? I mean, it's just like you interview people, you see their work, right? But you will not understand what it is like to work with them until you're working on set. And at that point, it's just like all this time, money, effort goes into preparing for a very small period of time, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is to shoot. And it's very difficult to replace someone once you get into that. I've had to do it, but it's like, wow. Yeah. So, and people kind of, once they're in a pressure cooker environment, like a set, they reveal their true selves. So unfortunately. But luckily most of the collaborators I work with have been fantastic, and I work with them over and over again. But those who have not worked with, it's not, haven't had the best experiences. But hopefully you have someone like a good first AD that can manage that situation better, because you don't want to have to take all that flack as a director. You need good managers underneath you. To work with you to help with problems, and there are big problems that can occur, as you know,
as we discussed.
Yeah, we spoke to a lot of ADs as well who have brought up some really twisted situations. So
I bet ADs have the best stories. They do.
Good ones.
Yeah, I mean that's a job. At a film school, I was an AD. I did ADing quite a bit, but that's a tough job. It's a thankless job. It's an extremely important job, but I don't envy their position on set, because it's a position that's so easy to hate. I don't hate. I love ADs, but so many people they channel their frustration toward the AD who wants them to hurry things up all the time.
I think ADs are born, not made. I'll be honest with you. It seems like something that people who do enjoy the job of it, like there's a weird thing about it that they crave, and they really do enjoy being able to like sift through all of these emotional and real world problems.
Yeah, that's 100%, right? They have to have nerves of steel, right? And have a very good temperament. So it's crucial. Such an important job. But ADs see everything. That's for sure.
They deserve Purple Hearts.
Yes, they do. Indeed, they do.
But with that,
no purple.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say,
no purple motor oil.
Yeah, no purple.
Yeah, exactly that. I'll have to look out for that brand. That's so weird. But anyway, just wanted to say thank you so much for talking with us, and for sharing your stories. It's great to catch up with you.
Yeah, it's great to catch up with you as well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I mean, for those, I don't even know if we told Taylor this, but William was our directing instructor when we graduated.
Oh,
so
no way.
He's seen us through the trenches.
Yes, yes,
that.
indeed. Yeah, so they know my pre-production process. They've seen the binders and the beat charts and all that fun stuff.
I still have all of that on file.
Excellent. Yeah, so yeah, some of my star students. So I'm glad to see you both doing well.
You're not saying that just because I invited you on the podcast.
Yeah, no, of course not. But yeah, this is great. I love the show.
Thank you so much. Well, I want to, open it up to you. Is there anything that you're working on right now that you want to share with people? Where can people find you? Yeah, sure. I mean, the hub, right, is my website, which is WilliamDickersonFilmmaker.com, right, which has links to all my work. You can see my latest film, No Alternative, on Amazon Prime and Tubi. My book on directing, which is Detour Hollywood, How to Direct a Micro-Budget Film, is available in Kindle, paperback, and recently audiobook, which you can find on Audible on Amazon.com. And going back to the beginning of our discussion, Saturday Saints, if you want to check out my music when I'm not making movies or teaching about them, I am rocking the drums. So find us on Spotify.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely check all of that out. I can't wait to hear your music. It's been such a joy talking to you and hearing your stories.
This is a lot of fun. Thanks again for having me on. It was a blast.
Thank you. Well, with that, that's it for Shoot the Shit. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Join us for the next shit show.
No Longer Network.